Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Get Into It with Gila. I'm Gila Glassberg, your host, registered dietitian and intuitive eating counselor. And today I have on Jessica Jones from Diabetes Digital. How are you, Jessica?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I'm so excited to have you. And I don't know you so well, so I'm so excited to get to know you. So I always start with tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. Where do you live and what do you do?
Okay. I'll start with where I live. That's easy. So I live in Sacramento, California. However, I used to live in Brooklyn, New York for like 8 years.
Oh, wow.
I used to live in the Bay Area, like different points in my life for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Very brief stint in LA. So I've kind of been all over. I want to live in Portland. I just
Okay.
visited there. I love it.
Okay. Great.
And in terms of what I do, I'm a dietitian and diabetes educator. I prefer the term certified diabetes educator versus the new term like the CDCES. I feel like it's a mouthful, but
Yeah.
that's kind of what I do. And in terms of how I got to where I am, well, I actually started as a career journalist or a career in
Oh,
journalism, and then
cool.
yeah, the this was a while ago. So this was like right before the Great Recession.
Wow.
I know. So I was like, this feels like it's going downhill, like this whole profession. No offense to journalists, like my hat's out to all my friends who started in journalism and are still there. But I also wanted to do something that was more directly one-on-one helping people. So I ended up getting into the field of nutrition dietetics, getting my master's in nutrition. I went to Brooklyn College for that. And
So were you, sorry to stop you, but were you
yeah.
ever interested in nutrition as a journalist?
Okay, I didn't know it was a career. So I actually met, which is so random because there's not that many male dietitians, but my mom's friend's boyfriend around that time, yeah, was a dietitian. And I was just
Mhm.
like, this is so fascinating. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Like I was just picking his brain about everything, like vitamin. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. And that's really how I learned about the profession. And then I felt like I was addicted to candy at that time. Whole
Okay.
nother thing. I didn't learned a lot since, but I was
Okay.
like, I have a candy addiction.
Okay.
And I ended up meeting with a nutritionist.
Quote, unquote, yeah.
Yeah, quote unquote. And people who are probably your listeners know maybe the difference between
Yeah.
dietitian and nutritionist. Like
Yeah.
dietitian is, more regulated. And I thought it was also cool what she was doing. She was like a holistic nutritionist. I didn't even know what a dietitian was at that time, really, either. And so, anyways, I was like, this seems really cool. But then I was like, well, maybe I'll just like get a certificate online or something. And then my best friend, who's a nurse, she's like, no, you should just go for the registered dietitian, like bite the bullet. And then I did. And
That's hard. It's not easy.
it was the hardest
Yeah.
thing I ever did, one of
Yeah.
them.
Yes.
So here I am 12 years later. I don't even know. So I've been working in so many different settings, disordered eating, primary care, diabetes. Um, yeah, I've worked with pregnant women, so many different facets of nutrition, but like most of my career has been like one-on-one counseling in an outpatient setting. And
Mhm.
um, yeah, and that all kind of led me to start my company, Diabetes Digital, which is a group practice of diverse dietitians focused on weight inclusive diabetes and pre-diabetes nutrition counseling.
Got it. Okay. So first it was journalism and it
Yes.
was career journalism. Is that what you said?
Yeah, well, yeah, I said a career. I messed up, but a career in journalism. So I I did a master, or no, not master's. I got a bachelor's in magazine writing.
Oh,
I did all the internship. Like I had an internship at oh my God, the Oakland Tribune. I was writing for them in Oakland, and then also what was the name of that paper? Whatever the main paper is for Wilmington, Delaware. Now I can't even remember what it was, but I had like a fashion column too, which is so cringe, like looking
cool.
back. Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, these fashions are hideous. But and then I worked as an assistant editor. That was my first job at the American Lawyer magazine in New York
Wow.
City. Yes, random. And then I was like, I love writing, but I don't want to do this. And that's when I kind of worked
Yeah.
at a nonprofit for a little bit and then decided to go back to school.
So nutrition was really your second career.
Definitely second career. Yeah.
And did you have a history of like what a lot of dietitians have when they like kind of make the switch to intuitive eating? Like, did you have a history of like disordered eating, or did you have diabetes, or do you have family history of diabetes? Like, what brought
Yeah.
you typically to that?
Yeah, so for diabetes, definite strong family history. And also like I have pre-diabetes on and off with going into like early menopause transition
Okay.
for some like autoimmune issues. But grandmother had diabetes, dad has pre-diabetes. I have on and off. Now I don't, but pre-diabetes. And then for disordered eating, it wasn't something at the time where I was like, I have disordered where I realized I had disordered, not that anyone really does, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like I felt like I was battling an active like eating disorder or anything. But yeah, looking back, absolutely I had disordered eating. Um, even just in like the like very restrictive calorie counting. I thought I was eating healthy, but yeah, looking back, I'm like, this is a little disordered. So I definitely feel like with the intuitive eating, I learned a lot and have incorporated a lot of those principles into my daily life. And I think that they have been really helpful. But really like what drew me into intuitive eating was just honestly different podcasts, like listening to Christy Harrison's podcast called
That's
Food Psych. Yeah, if you guys
She's also a
definitely check that out.
journalist, but I feel like she's thought
Yes.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we worked together like back in the day before Food Psych.
Hmm.
Um, we I don't know that she fully remembers me from those days. Maybe very like vaguely, but we both worked for the New York City Department of Health, like in underserved communities doing nutrition education at farmers markets
Cool.
years ago. This is like 2009 maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's that was kind of my trajectory and then just like Harrison's work, obviously Evelyn Tribolet's work, like it just really spoke to me. And with time, after doing like, Evelyn's training and things like that, I just had a major shift in my framework. And there's no looking back once
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
that shift, you know?
For sure. Yeah. I think what's really interesting for people to hear, like from specifically like an intuitive eating dietitian who has like an even like more focused niche, like diabetes, is because people always ask me this, like, well, if you have a medical condition, let's say you have diabetes or you have high blood pressure or you have high cholesterol, like how do you, eat intuitively? Um, I'm not sure why I did air quotes, but because that's like it's such a nuanced thing.
Yeah.
But do you get that a lot? Like, how do you eat
Yes.
intuitively if you're also watching your sugar, which we could
Yeah.
talk more about that, like when people say watching my sugar. Yeah, so take me through that. Like, how do you explain that?
Yeah, so this comes up actually a lot. And we just recorded a podcast episode about this for our podcast this morning, like 30
Oh,
minutes
cool.
ago, on how to eat intuitively with diabetes. And we had a guest on, her name was Janice Dada, and she just wrote an amazing book called Intuitive Eating for Diabetes.
Cool.
Yeah, and so it's like such a great resource for people. I think that's number one is like checking that out, or
Mhm.
even the podcast episode because it has a lot of info. But I think that there's so many places to start, right? So there are 10 intuitive eating principles that, people can take a look at. You could just Google it, but the first one is kind of challenging the diet mentality, right? So when people first get diagnosed with diabetes, the first thing they think about is carbohydrates,
Yeah.
cutting out all carbohydrates. But we know that typically when you cut things out, you tend to crave them more and you just have a more erratic intake of that food. And
Mhm.
that's been my experience. There's also studies to support that, where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to have like a salad for lunch and for skip breakfast. And then you kind of end up binging later in the day or like deprivation eating later in the day, right? Because your body is just so undernourished in certain nutrients. So I think just like number one is challenging that idea that you have to diet. The other thing we focus on with people is meal timing.
Mhm.
That is so overlooked. People tend to be also erratic with like when they're eating, how much they're eating. Again, they might try to eat less in the day, more later on, skipping meals, what everyone's busy, crazy day.
Mhm.
But just like, knowing that the body really does appreciate consistency. Not that you have to eat the same thing at the same exact time every day, but like in general, trying to have at least 3 meals a day and have, don't go more than like 4 hours, 5 hours without eating.
Hmm.
I think even just that can help manage your blood glucose.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you another story of one of our dietitians who was just saying in our meeting, shout out to our dietitian, Tiana. She had a patient who had type 1 diabetes and was very weary of like, if any of these things could help because he was, not he had it for a while, my understanding, and he's like, well, I've been doing all the things, like I'm already doing everything. And she made very tiny changes with him. And one of them was like trying to incorporate more food groups for breakfast and not having as sweet of a breakfast and trying to make it a little bit more savory, incorporating protein, incorporating fats, getting that fiber in. Amongst other things, right? Like minor tweaks, nothing that's like a diet or anything like that. And his A1C had like a dramatic drop from 7.8 to I think it was 6.5.
Yeah.
So I say that to say that oftentimes we think that we have to do these like big drastic changes or big diets, but oftentimes it's the little things that can make the biggest difference over time, just being consistent with those things. So those are three kind of ideas. I can go on and on and on. I don't know if I'm going to pause
Yeah.
in case you have follow-ups.
Yeah. No, 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 that's really important. I think that, at least like from my experience from the podcast and from my private clients, that people, they hear diabetes or they hear any of the things that I said before, high blood pressure, and like, let's say, okay, diabetes, it's like, yeah, you have to obviously cut your carbs, right? I'm joking, like, or, high blood
Yeah.
pressure, no more salt, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, it's like these blanket statements that people just like believe are true. And
Hmm.
like you said, like it could be like a tiny change. I'm sorry that there's noises going on in my house.
Oh, I don't even hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
Um,
fine.
it's a busy day.
Okay.
We're in pre-Passover, so
Okay.
yeah. Um, yeah, and I've had that too, where I had a client come in and she was just, trying to maintain a better blood glucose, and we made really small changes, like even like 10 minutes of exercise a day, walking outside,
Yes.
and it's like, wow, her labs changed and her weight didn't change, and like people just can't believe it. And it's like, I know we've been like brainwashed a little bit to believe that like you have to change your whole life and like you can no longer eat like your favorite foods, but people don't really realize that it's like the
Yeah.
small things, really.
Yeah, and that's another thing too with the weight because a lot of information around diabetes is very weight focused, where it's like all about losing weight, what they tell you, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, it's just not necessarily the most important factor for people when it comes to managing their diabetes or even pre-diabetes. And I'll just use myself as an example. Um, I was diagnosed with pre-diabetes, and then I did the small changes that I recommend other people do. Some I felt like I was already doing, but some it was like, okay, let me just do a little bit, like not more strength training, but just lifting a little heavier. Making an effort to get enough protein because I was a little low on that to build muscle because muscle will help with just blood glucose regulation, like having muscle mass. And oftentimes when people are dieting, they're actually losing muscle, so it's not good long term.
Mm-hmm.
So just simple things like that. Just honestly making sure I was eating enough, moving, taking movement breaks throughout the day, and my A1C went down out of the pre-diabetes range, but my weight stayed exactly the same. So I say that to say that let's focus on the behaviors and um, non-scale victories. So whether that is you feel better, you feel more energized, your labs went down,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever direction that you want them to go, right? Some labs
Right.
we want to go up.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and sometimes you might do all the things and still your numbers are not where you want them to be. And that's when we might lean on medications and try not to have shame about that or stigma because I take many medications for different things. Um, and they're very helpful. And sometimes people, they can only get so far with a healthy approach to diet and lifestyle. And by healthy approach, I don't mean like you just eat vegetables and fruits. Like, no,
Right.
I mean like a healthy mental approach
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah.
well as physical approach. Sometimes you only get so far with that, and that's okay too.
Yeah. I was actually thinking I was going to ask you this exact question that I remember when I was a student. I went to Queens College.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had a professor who was great. She was a great professor, but she was a diabetes educator also, and she was very extremely weight focused. I'm
Yeah.
saying this was pre my intuitive eating days, and I remember her saying that the thing about diabetes, at least type 2 diabetes, is that it is reversible based on lifestyle changes, and she was focusing on like weight
Mm-hmm.
specifically. But I think it's really interesting for people to hear from your perspective as somebody who has been diagnosed with prediabetes. What does that mean, like that you could, let's say, manage it with, let's say, diet and exercise and or plus medication? Because I think people think like I either have diabetes or I don't have diabetes, and maybe
Yeah.
just explain that like from the biologically.
Yes. Okay. So that's a great question. So with pre-diabetes, that is essentially when your blood glucose is a little bit higher than quote normal, but not quite high enough to be in that diabetes range. So with pre-diabetes, you might have some insulin resistance as well. And just for people who are unfamiliar with insulin, it's essentially a hormone that helps glucose get into your cells to give you energy. So whenever you eat something that has carbohydrate in it, for example, let's say I have a bagel, that will break down into glucose, and your body needs to be able to use that for energy. So, insulin essentially helps open the door to get that energy into your cells. Now, if you become insulin resistant, then the it's harder for that door to open. The blood sugar can kind of start piling up, and that's where it can cause damage to your body. It can cause little nicks and tears within like your vascular system, things like that. So that's why you might have diabetes. People with diabetes that's been quote uncontrolled for a long period of time might have more problems. We well, not we all, but many of us have relatives who may have had an amputation, things like that. And that's just because the glucose has kind of been building up for a long time and maybe causing a little bit of damage. Um, so when people say like pre-diabetes and kind of reversing that, now, according to just like the mainstream kind of literature when it comes to diabetes, you can reverse pre-diabetes, meaning that you take your A1C, which is your average blood glucose over a period of 3 months, and you take it from like that in-between borderline range down to normal. And normal, just for people who are like, well, what are the ranges? Normal is anything under 5.7. Now, if you have diabetes, on the other hand, what we understand, like from the literature today, is that that can't be re reversed. So with diabetes, we might use terms like in remission, but we don't necessarily use reverse. Now, I do see a lot of people online using the term reversed, and they can do what they do on their platforms, but I'm just saying, like, based on kind of more the mainstream literature, that is what the consensus is today, that it's you can't really reverse diabetes, you can put it in remission, meaning that you may get your A1C down to a quote pre-diabetes range, but once you kind of have diabetes, you always have diabetes, but you can completely manage the symptoms and yeah, and help your body get to a really good place where you're not having that blood sugar floating around.
Mhm. So when you say like you were diagnosed with prediabetes, it means right now your A1C is within normal range.
Yeah, so it was in the elevated like borderline, and now it was like I don't even know 5.8, and now it's 5 point, well, last time I checked it was 5.2.
Mhm.
And so anything under 5.7, so 5.6, 5.4 is like considered quote normal and not necessarily at risk. Now, I will also say not everybody with pre-diabetes will go on to develop diabetes because I also don't want to be like, bless you, a fear monger. Person where it's like you're gonna get diabetes, like that's not the case either. There's so many lifestyle things you can do to really help to reduce your risk, and also there may be people who don't do any lifestyle changes at all and maybe they still don't develop diabetes, so it's not a definite that you will get it. But I mean, just from the long-term research, it's kind of different. Research has different things, but majority of people from the long term research, when they're looking at a lifetime, when they do have pre-diabetes, will end up developing diabetes. But if they're looking at a short period of time, like 5 years, it's a lot lower percentage. So it really just kind of depends on the person and genetics.
Right. It depends on genetics, but it could also depend on lifestyle changes, meaning if
Yeah,
somebody is diagnosed with prediabetes and they make no changes, there's probably a higher likelihood of them
exactly.
developing diabetes.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think it's really important for people to know that again, like it's and I always say like when I'm counseling someone with diabetes or someone without diabetes, like pretty much it's all good practice. Like combine your carbs with protein and exercise
exactly.
and manage your sleep. Like sleep could affect your
Yeah,
business and your stress, and people just don't realize that
I know.
it's not just that like you were bad and you ate a lot of sugar and now you have to pay, you know?
Thank you for saying that because I feel like sleep and stress are the most overlooked contributing factors to elevated blood glucose, especially like lack of sleep and high stress.
Yeah,
And we will often have our clients wear a continuous glucose monitor, which is where you can kind of see where your blood sugar is like at any given time. You can see trends. It's not a good fit for everybody. Some people it's a little triggering. And most people, especially if you're not like on any kind of medications like insulin, you don't need to do it long term. You could just do it to get some information, I think in conjunction with a dietitian supporting you. But yeah, when I have used a CGM, like the effect of low sleep and stress, like or being sick, it will make my blood sugar like skyrocket to the
right.
point where like one of the companies they sent us like some sample CGMs and I told the team they were like, "Oh, did anyone try them?" I was like, "Oh, I can't try it right now. I'm sick." And I know that the like it's going to make my numbers look higher. So I was
Yeah,
like, "I don't even want to like
yeah,
start getting into a place of feeling anxious because it doesn't make any sense for me to put it on right now. And I'm not on like insulin, so I don't need to know exactly like those trends today, but it can be so helpful even just 2 weeks of data to see how foods affect you individually. And the other thing that has a really strong correlation to improving blood glucose is exercise. It's so overlooked. People think everything is diet. I honestly feel like for my body, exercise is almost like more important, has
yeah,
or not more important, but like has a bigger impact than
yeah.
I mean, it all does, but I just know the days that I exercise versus the days I don't, it's like a huge difference in blood glucose control.
It's amazing. I know. It's like it's funny because I don't like to like obviously I never want to like shame anybody or like tie their weight into their worth or tie anything really into their worth.
Yeah.
But like so I am expecting now and whenever I go to the doctor, they check my blood pressure and my
Uh-huh.
blood pressure is always like they're always like, "Oh, it's like 120 over 70," or like they're like, "Wow, it's so good." And like the like in my last pregnancy I was considered like obese, right? And they were like monitoring me because I'm considered obese and they were
Hmm.
checking my blood pressure. I'm like, haha, you see, because I exercise. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking like they are so weight focused and I'm like
Right.
working on my behaviors and
Right.
it has really nothing to do with the weight, like the glucose
Yeah.
rate and the and that doesn't always work like that because like we're not
Yeah.
God, we don't control everything. And
Exactly.
so you could be quote unquote perfect on your diet and perfect on your exercise routine and still get diabetes and still get high blood pressure. That's just the way it works,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
like yeah, and I've had people tell me that if they have let's say gestational diabetes and they eat like a high carb meal and then they take a walk for 10 minutes after their glucose is so much better. And it's like 10 minutes, really, like, diet culture sells us on like you have to exercise
Yeah.
for an hour, you have to sweat, you have to, be really fit. And it's not true at all, you know?
No. And there's actually, we've been trying to post more of this research on our social media and have these conversations on our podcast, just like the mini bouts of exercise that make a difference,
Yeah.
or even like doing squat if that's available to somebody, right? Because like not everybody can do squats, but
Yeah.
even breaking up your day by doing squats, like 10 squats, whatever, however frequently, doing the quick walk. I find that so much better for also my mental health because it's like I used to, like you said, be that person. Okay, morning, I'm gonna do all my exercise, get that whatever hour, 45 minutes. I'm gonna do a long walk and like burn myself out. And then I was kind of tired, and then I did no movement the rest of the day, and like it was still good for blood glucose, but it could.
Yeah.
What I found was better is like breaking it up, and then it's like it's less of like a mental load. It's like okay, you're just walking around the block, girl. Like you
Right.
could walk around the block.
Yeah.
And so if I do that a few times a day, I still get the same like cumulative amount of walking in, but it's like the mental barrier is not there for me. And so I'm so much more consistent because I always remember this quote by Rebecca Scritchfield, who wrote the amazing book Body Kindness. And she said the best exercise is exercise you do consistently. And that
Mhm.
always sticks with me because it's like we're always searching for the next best plan and this and that. It's like, oh, well, this is the gold standard, but it doesn't matter. It's like
Right.
it doesn't matter if you do the gold standard like once a month versus maybe you do something that's like you consider a little like less perfect, but you do it every day, every other day. Like that is so much better overall
Yeah.
for you than yeah, just like kind of that all or nothing mentality.
Yeah, and it's really hard to break, I have to say, like as somebody who's been exercising for a long time before intuitive eating and now like practicing
Yeah.
intuitive eating, um, I really like enjoy like a good workout, like a intense workout where I
Yeah.
am studying, and now in this pregnancy I'm just having a really hard time like tolerating it, and it's been really
Yeah.
hard. And I'm like working out at home, and I'm like everything counts, you know? I tell that to
Yeah.
clients, like 0 minutes a day times 7 days a week is 0 minutes, but 10 minutes a
Right.
day times 7 days a week is 70 minutes. That's better than
Yes.
zero. So
Yeah.
like everything really counts, and I wish that people knew that, because like not just for glucose control, just because like it's good for you. It feels good.
Yes.
Get
Feels
endorphins,
so
you know?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will give an exercise app a recommendation that I've really been loving. And they also have a prenatal version. It's called Evlo,
Uh-huh.
and it is created by three physical therapists. It's not a weight inclusive app, and I will say I wish they had more body diversity because they definitely don't, but they never mention like weight loss or anything like that. It's all about listening to your body. It's all about gentle consistency is what she calls it. And so everything is created by a physical therapist. It's also low systemically fatiguing, but it's all strength training. The purpose
Oh,
is like
cool.
building muscle for it's for made for women. Like I
Cool.
said, the creator is pregnant now. So but she's been pregnant before. So she has like her whole prenatal version. So
Cool.
anyways, people can check that out if you want something to do at home, but with weights. Um,
I like that idea.
yeah, and I've been loving it and it's 35 minutes a day. Um and you can do like 3 days a week, 4 or 5, but they start over every week and they do the exercises with you. So I really have been enjoying it. So anyway, just want to share that if someone's like looking for a place to
Yeah.
start, I have no affiliation with them. I just heard them talk on another podcast and it resonated and I was like, okay, let me try this out and I really enjoy it.
I really appreciate that, because I don't know about you, but I know from my private life slash my professional life that a lot of people, I'm like a huge fan of exercise. I love exercise. I'm always posting
Yeah.
about it, and I'm always trying to get people to like try, like, yeah, one of the things I ask my clients is like, what did you like when you were 10? Like, did you like jumping on the trampoline?
Yes.
You'll probably like that now when you're
Oh,
30, you know?
yeah.
Like, did you like
Oh
jump
my
rope? Like, it's
God.
so fun when you're an
Yeah.
adult, you know? Rock
Oh my
climbing, like you're
gosh.
like, what? That's not, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
that's exercise. Like, you don't
Roller
have to go
skating.
to the gym. Yeah, you don't have to go to the
Yeah.
gym. You don't have to do any of that. You like walking, like,
Yeah.
and a lot of people's barriers, and they talk about this in the intuitive eating book, is that like I'm too fat to go to the gym. I'm the fattest person there. People will look at me. I can't do all the reps, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what? That has nothing to do with it. But like,
Yeah.
I understand where people are coming from, but it's like so sad, like that those are real barriers, because it's like that's why these apps are amazing. But like, I
Right.
really try to encourage people to get outside of their comfort zone when it comes to exercise, because there's
Yeah.
so many gardening, like there's so many
Oh, gardening.
things that are just so
Love.
good for your body and soul. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're so aligned on that. And I agree. I think just whatever is going to keep you interested. Also, I'm the type where I realize I like switching it up. So I can't say like I'm gonna do Evlo for the rest of my life. Like I've been doing it for 4 months.
Right.
Before that, I was doing Pilates for a year. And
Right.
so it's just like also giving yourself permission to I have ADHD. So it's like I like new stimulus. I even with walks, like my husband, he can do the same freaking walk like every day. I can't. I'm like, bro, we got to go on a different
Yeah.
route. Like I need
Yeah.
new stimulation. So
Right.
I think just like honoring that within yourself too and knowing that it doesn't mean you have to give up and do nothing, but it's like, okay, ready for like my next thing. That's okay too.
Yes. Yes. I love everything that you just said, and I can't agree more. Like, I mean, people who know me know, like, I love to swim and I love to bike. I can't really
Yeah.
bike right now because I'm pregnant, but
Yeah.
I can't, and swimming is just harder because we don't need to have access to a pool, and now it's cold in New York, whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny that you say that about the Pilates because I have a good friend who's like really into intuitive eating also, and she's also really into exercise. And she told me we've been going to the same gym for a while, and she told me recently she kind of like switched that vibe and started going to Pilates. And she's like, in the gym that we usually go to, it's very like high energy, high
Yeah.
intensity, rah rah. You walk in and there's like a boom, like music, and she's like, the Pilates is like gentle music,
Yes.
and she's like, it's weird because I thought like, gym number one was like helping me with my stress release, but like it was causing me a lot of stress, like too many people
Mm.
and too much noise. And now she's like, I'm in
Ooh.
this Pilates studio and there's like this totally relaxed vibe,
Yes.
which I can't really do Pilates now, also pregnant, because it's like a lot of core work. But
Yeah.
I'm like, I really hear that. Like, there's obviously on different days you need different stimulation,
Yes. Yeah.
but like just knowing that those two things could feed two different parts of you.
Oh my God. And yeah, I still do the Pilates 1 day a week, but I do like a restore class. When I tell you, it feels like the same endorphins like when you get a massage. Every time I go on, I'm like flustered because it's during my lunch break. I'm like flustered. I always want to cancel, but I'm like, just go because I'm like,
Right.
girl, you know
You
you're
know
gonna
you'll
feel good
feel better.
after. I feel I call my husband on, even though the drive home was like 7 minutes, I literally call him every time, like, oh my God, babe, that class was so good.
Yeah, yeah,
Every week is the same call.
yeah. Funny.
So I think again, it also doesn't have to be, yes, like I agree with you. I love, love, love like working out hard. I love lifting weights. Like I genuinely enjoy it. But balance, right? Like I also love the restore of the Pilates, but Pilates is a workout too. I'm
Yeah, and
like,
Pilates is a
please,
workout.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a workout. But I do the restore now. I'm like in the restore phase. But before when I was doing that Pilates workout, that was a lot too. So
yeah,
I think just like having the balance that works for you, like you said, challenging yourself, playing around, knowing the setting that's not going to be too stimulating, too triggering. For me with the gym, I do love a good gym. I'm not going to lie, but I agree. Sometimes it's like the bright lights and
yeah,
it's like we're fighting for equipment. I
yeah,
just get stressed
yeah,
about that. Like
yeah, yeah,
they got the squat rack, you know?
yeah,
So I
yeah,
kind of like the home thing where I just like am building my own little gym here.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works. Exactly. Like if you don't want to, like you have to really learn about yourself. And intuitive eating is so much about that. Like if you need to do that home like app for a while, but like maybe one day
Yeah.
you want to go to a class and like you'll be okay with looking at yourself in the mirror and like
Mm-hmm.
some days you'll challenge yourself to do that and some days that will be too much. But like everything, but take it as it comes, really.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
be
take it
gentle.
as it comes. Exactly. Because that's another thing too, I think, is dietitians, we often can be like type A planners. And I get in that where it's like, if I commit to this, I'm committing the rest of my life. And it's like,
Right.
chill one
Yeah.
day at a time. 1 week. Okay, a
Yeah.
week at a time.
Yeah.
Sometimes a day though, because it's like, I didn't sleep well. I gotta take this day off.
Right.
And I like that Evlo is very much about, again, it's you don't have to do a set amount of reps. You don't have to, they don't tell you the weight. It's just like you go based on how your body's feeling and telling you. And often the instructors will like stop when they get to that place of what they call like muscle failure, where it's like, oh, I can't do any more of this. I just hit the muscle or cook the muscle. They stop before like the timer is off, and it gives you permission to kind of just listen to yourself
Yeah.
and not the external like
Yeah.
comparing yourself like, oh, Jenny over here who's been doing this 25 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, like they're,
Yeah.
you know, whatever, walking on a handstand, but
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I really appreciate the instructors that will say that in the class, like, don't look at
Mm,
anybody else.
yeah.
I do like that about some gyms that the lights are really dark because, like, you don't really
Yes.
want to see anybody else, you
I
kind of just want to
don't.
be in your own, you know, zone.
Yeah. In your own zone.
It's
Same.
kind of, I mean, exercise and diet, like, when I say diet, I mean the way you eat. It's like, it's kind of the same thing. Like it does like intuitive eating is all about like permission and not being
Hmm.
restrictive, but like also having that, I guess, mindset slash knowledge slash gentle nutrition component of like how will I feel, meaning like you don't always want to go to your Pilates class, but you know how
Yeah.
good you're gonna feel afterwards. So it's like
Yeah.
I sometimes think like that, like I could have a bagel now, I could have a salad, I could have both. But how will I
Mm,
feel? I know myself. If I only eat a salad, I won't be full enough. If I only eat a bagel, maybe I'll have like a little bit like a carb hangover. I
yes.
could have like bagel and tuna. And I love it
Yeah.
when people are like, I ate so bad today. I had a bagel and I'm like, I had that for lunch. I thought it was great. Like
Yeah.
it's so funny. Like I was telling you before we started recording that I took a little bit of a break from the podcast because I feel like I don't know how you guys feel, but like I just feel like everybody is still I thought by now like diet culture would be like a little bit better, but I still feel
Yeah.
like there's a part of the world that's like so hyper focused and always like body bashing and always
Yeah.
shaming people for the way they eat. And it's just like it's so frustrating.
Yeah. I think that that is getting really ramped up online. Um, yeah, I don't even want to bring politics into it, but it's also like the make it health, the America healthy again and all that, where it's like they're reading the labels and it's like they don't even know how to pronounce the things. They don't know what it is. It's just like, oh, it has a long list. It's bad. It's like, actually, that's like vitamin B2. It's just a different name.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I do see that that is happening online, and then in turn, like yeah, the podcast space is it is very diet culture-y, and it is very like eat like me, look like me.
Yeah.
Um, I also find it like just hilarious that there's the amount of podcasts where it's like young people feeling like, and by young, it's like that can mean anything, but I don't even know what I mean by young, but just young. Like telling people that they have everything figured out is and just like giving all this advice, life advice. I'm like, girl, you're 22. Like,
Yeah.
you still have a lot of life to live. And I'm 41, so it's not to say that, like, I'm sure for some people I'm still considered young, but yeah, I would love to just see more podcasts with like older voices, senior voices who actually have lived a lifetime and have really figured it out through decades. But yeah, it's very much like I have the food thing figured out, I have this figured out, I have that figured out. When really, I think most people, including myself, were kind of a mess and we're just like taking it 1 hour at a time. And like,
Yeah.
let's just be a little more transparent about that.
Right, right. I guess like the online space is like that is something that I'm still learning how to navigate as a business owner because like
Yeah.
you can really mess with your mind and like but I'm not even I'm not yes, online is pretty diety, but even like in my own private life, I just feel like everybody is dieting.
Yeah.
And I really thought it would be better by now. So there's like
Yeah.
a sadness, like a grief, like I'm kind of the only one who believes this and everybody around me is
Mm,
like I don't eat bread. Of course, I don't eat bread.
yeah.
I don't like, salad. Like, of course, the healthiest thing is salad. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm just not going to talk because you don't listen to me anyways. But
I know, right? Like yeah, same. It's just like these topics are not going to
yeah,
work in this group
yeah,
chat
yeah,
or I will exit.
yeah,
Like I think it's hard. And I feel like I've had so many patients like that too, where it's like they feel like they've seen the light in terms of, yeah, just having more peace with food and to be around so many friends, family, whoever it is, who are still kind of stuck in that dieting place. It can be really sad. I try to my best as I can, like have compassion for people and kind of where they're at. Cause I know
right,
for me, and I'm sure you do too, I know for me, it's like I was there too, right?
yeah,
And if somebody were to have been like, kind of like what my thoughts are now about me, I would have been
yeah,
like, ew.
yeah,
But
right, 100%.
right? Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know, I think it's all about just finding, I guess, a support system that
Hmm.
works for
Hmm.
you, gives you what you need. I think as dietitians, we have each other.
Yeah,
I know it's very fractured right now within our field, but
yeah,
I just try to find a few
yeah.
that
You know Jessica
align.
Setnick?
What's that?
You know Jessica Setnick?
I don't know her, but I know of her. Yes.
So I've used her like as a supervisor and like
Okay.
I really, really like value her opinion. And
Oh,
I've told her
nice.
before, like I'm an Orthodox Jew, so we celebrate Sabbath every single week.
Hmm.
And and I told her like, it comes up a lot. Like if you have company or you're at a table where you don't know people, it's like, oh, you're a dietitian. Like, what do you do? Oh, can you help me lose weight? Or like if I'm like, oh, I don't really do weight loss, da, da, da. And she's like, you could just tell them that you charge a lot of money for what you teach, and they could just book a session after.
Yes.
You don't have to start working at your, Sabbath.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, oh, right, can put up boundaries. That's true.
Yes. Boundaries. Boundaries are everything. I
Yeah,
know. I agree. And I don't work with friends or family.
I hear that.
I've done it and it just never works
Yeah,
ever.
right.
So I am just like, you know what? It's so funny though, the amount of friends and family where I have told them things and they don't listen to me, which is why I don't work with them. But then they'll hear it on like some random podcast or like some random
Yeah.
Google thing
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And it's like, then they'll come to me and be like, oh my gosh, I'm doing, like, for example, avocados. I won't say who said this, but I always like, because I have family who diets a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just, giving some feedback. Like, it doesn't seem like you're getting any fats in your diet. Fats are important because they help absorb like our fat soluble vitamins, nutrients, amongst other things. And it seems like you're really just eating like nothing and you need fats.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is something I've been saying for years and years. And then finally, I don't know, maybe it was on like Huberman or something where it's like, oh, fats are helpful for these reasons. Also helping balance blood sugar. And then like people will come back and like tell me as though they're hearing it or as though they're like teaching me for the first
Yeah.
time. I'm like, girl, or like even like, hey, I don't think you're eating enough. Like just based on all the exercise that you're
Yeah.
doing, my recommendation would be, and all your symptoms that you're having, like it seems like you're under eating, under fueling, you're not having any carbs. But then they'll like meet with some random like health coach, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got all this info. I was like, girl, I've been telling you that for 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's why I just like keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've actually come to that realization that people really don't want me to talk unless they ask me. So like
Yeah, they don't really
I love it
actually.
when like my family or my friends are like, this isn't healthy, this is and I'm like, that's not true. And then they're just kind of like ignore me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna talk. But
Yeah.
it's fine, you know.
Yeah, this is what we do for a living, and
Yeah,
we know
exactly.
nothing.
It's such a funny thing because I think I've like developed like an aversion to like food conversations, except for like happy food conversations. And
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, did you try this restaurant? Did you try this new coffee?" I'm like, "Oh, that's fun." But if
Yeah.
people start talking about like healthy food and their hormones and regulating and
Yeah.
dieting, I'm just like, wall, like
Yeah.
can't talk about that
Same.
right now. Yeah,
No, I feel the exact same. Or even just like people's it's like I hate to judge, but it's hard when it's all you do for a living and you
yeah,
kind of just pick up on stuff like
yeah,
people's like relationships with food being off.
yeah,
Or, and my friends know this about me. Like, if I'm hanging out with you, like, girl, we gotta eat. Like this
yeah,
whole like people not eating thing where it's like it's 2 o'clock and there's no plans for food. Like,
yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So you kind of just I try to just be neutral and like not think about it or whatever, but as you absorb a little bit of kind of what other people are doing. And it's funny because any setting I'm in, when they find out I'm a dietitian, they're thinking I'm judging what they're eating. And
yeah.
I'm actually like judging what you're not eating.
Right,
I'm
right, yeah,
judging how you're like
yeah,
maybe disordered around your eating. Could care less about what you're eating. If
yeah,
anything, I find it like refreshing when people are like, you know what, I'm hungry and this is what I want and this is what I'm going to eat. That was amazing. Like nothing
yeah,
about that shame conversation.
yeah,
Um, and I just, yeah, I feel like honestly too, like since I have incorporated like intuitive eating and all these things, I'm naturally just eating healthier meals anyway, like quote unquote, right? Like
yeah.
I'm having more fiber in the day. I'm having a natural balance. Because like you said, you just feel better when you do. So
Mhm.
it's like it's almost counterintuitive to like the restricting because it actually doesn't lead you to eating in a more nourishing way.
Yeah. Actually, you know, they say like somebody like I've struggled with my own disordered eating and they say like
Yeah.
people who have they tend to like marry somebody or date somebody who's more like healthy about food. And my husband doesn't, he's never dieted. He doesn't, I mean, he'll joke about dieting, but he's never been on a diet.
Yeah.
And um we were out the other night and we got like a bunch of like fried appetizers and then like a meat main. And then for dessert, we both don't like chocolate, which is weird. I know,
Yeah.
but
I don't either.
oh, okay, so you got it.
Yeah. My husband loves it.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we both don't like it. So we're asking the waitress like, what do you have that's not chocolate? So of course churros are delicious. But then she's
Yeah.
like, we have this like meringue thing with like blueberries and strawberries. And my husband's like, let's get that. I had a lot of fried food tonight. And if it was somebody else that's like I know is into dieting, it's so triggering for me. But he
Yeah.
knows that like that is a huge trigger for me. And also like he's not into dieting. He just
Yeah.
genuinely meant like I eat a lot of fried food. It probably will not sit well in my body.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was just really refreshing because it's like I always tell this to people, like sometimes the way you look, the way you eat on a diet versus intuitive eating could almost be like the same, but it's
Right.
such different intentions.
Yes. And you know what's funny? My husband's the exact same. I always say he has the healthiest relationship with food of anyone I've ever met, without even knowing any intuitive eating or anything like that, but where it's like a genuine, it's not about what it is, it's about like how it makes him feel,
Yeah,
what he's craving in the moment. Um, and that's pretty much it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it just naturally he does eat, like especially now because I think we're both like, intuitive eating and just, making an effort to also like me with the pre-diabetes to like have that natural balance in there. But yeah, like he naturally just eats, yeah, very nourished, but also delicious because we
yeah,
love eating out too and we love
yeah,
all the things. And
yeah,
I
it's fun, yeah,
and I always tell people to think about like not what you take away, but what you add. Because it's
yeah,
gonna add flavor, it's gonna help you feel full for
yeah,
longer, it's gonna
yeah.
add nutrition.
Yeah. I've actually had this for like a long time where I try not to use the words like healthy or unhealthy.
Yeah,
And like lately I've been saying the words healthy because like
yeah.
I work with kids a lot. So like
Okay.
very like, binary, like it's this way or this way.
Yeah.
So like is it healthy for me or is it unhealthy for me? And I'll tell them like this is considered healthy, but I don't like the word healthy because it's like
Yeah.
sometimes you just don't know what word to use instead
I
of the word
know.
healthy because it's
Yeah.
like a good descriptive word, like it means it's good for you.
Yeah.
But I guess, right? But it's so hard with like the language and like the nuances. Like you want to like explain something to somebody, whether it's an adult or a child. And even to myself, I'm like, I haven't quite found the right word. Like I like the word nourishing, but like I always say
Yeah.
like Ensure is very nourishing, like people would look at Ensure and think what garbage this is. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how many people this sustains, it's just like
Right.
it's hard to find the right words. Like,
Yeah, I know. I feel the same. I do use nourishing too. Nutrient dense. When you said inshore though, I just had an internal laugh because when I worked at my clinic in New York, I worked at Kings County Hospital Center and they were like selling inshore on the black market. Like they would want to get prescriptions, my patients, for inshore when they didn't need it.
yeah,
And like they had no problems, but they would like, maybe it's not funny, but they would resell it. Yeah. So, and I would be like, oh my God. But I remember we also had like an inshore. I was like, hey, can we do like an inshore taste test where me
yeah,
and all the dietitians, we like tried the glycerin and the
yeah,
inshore just so we
yeah,
knew what it tasted like. Cause I know a lot
yeah,
of patients like they really do like the taste of it. And like you said, it is super nourishing. It's helpful for them to get those calories in.
yeah.
So yeah, it's good to just like to know what your patients are going through.
I had a supervisor when I was a student tell us that we had to try all the supplements that we recommended because before you start forcing people to eat something, you have to know how it tastes.
Right.
Good for
Yeah,
them.
I
Yeah,
agree. I think anything, I think having that I mean, you don't always have to have that lived experience or have tasted the thing or this or that, but yeah, like even when I go to a restaurant, I always am like, I ask them like, "Oh, what do you recommend?" And then, or do you like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, "Oh, have you tasted this?" Or like, "No, actually, I
yeah,
haven't." I'm like, "Okay, well, maybe I'll,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
maybe I won't take your advice."
yeah,
But yeah, I also think that's why a lot of patients they do connect with people with different lived experiences, whether it's like a cultural lived experience
yeah.
or whether it's a lived experience in a larger body or even with diabetes. Like a couple of our dietitians have diabetes themselves. So yeah, I think all of that can make a difference on how people will connect with you and like any information you're going to share with them.
100%. Yeah. I mean, Evelyn Tribole always says that like the direct experience of your body is the best teacher. Like when she says about like
Yes.
making peace with food, like you can't imagine that like chocolate won't be a trigger, potato chips or pizza. And one day you just like eat one slice of pizza and you're not craving another slice. You're like, what? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, no, that could really happen if you're not, restricting and binging. But until you
Yeah.
kind of experience it yourself, it's hard. It's really hard to know.
It's so hard to know, but it truly does work. And
Yeah.
you'll be able to stop too, like at a place that feels good because we all know there's a difference between like, ooh, I am so satisfied with that, however many slices of pizza, and like, oh my gosh, I feel sick. I overdid it. Like,
Yeah.
so I feel like it's harder to get to that like satisfied, I can stop place when it is something you're restricting. And it's like, well, I'm having it this one time, I'm binging out. Um, yeah, I encourage people to just experiment with it. Like all
Yeah.
those foods you have off limits, fear
Yeah.
foods, try
Yeah.
incorporating them regularly in the beginning. Maybe you will feel out of control, like you will binge, but that typically tapers off with time and you'll get to a more balanced place. And if you need help, work with a dietitian who can
Yeah.
help support you on that process.
A lot of times it's like the people who hit diet rock bottom that will try it. Because if you're like still,
Yeah.
I still have so many people that are like, but I still want to lose weight. Maybe I'll lose weight first, then I'll do intuitive eating. I'm like, you can do
Yeah.
whatever you want. Like, I'm not the diet police.
Yeah.
But it's those people who are like, no, I've literally tried everything. I know this doesn't work, and I'm binging anyways, so I might as well like make peace with it. And
Yeah.
they tend to do much better, which is
Yes.
the way it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to tell the listeners where they can find you?
Yeah. So if you are somebody who has diabetes, prediabetes, PCOS, any kind of metabolic condition, definitely check us out. We're at diabetesdigital.co. That's .co. And we are a group practice, like I said. We have 10 dietitians at this point, and we work with you
Take
one on one.
turns.
We take insurance.
And
Yeah. So we take all the major insurances like Aetna, Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, United, UMar,
you're
Oxford, Medicare.
nationwide or you're just in
We're in
California?
41 states,
Wow.
including New York. Yeah. So we just keep getting licensed in new states just based on kind of when we get a lot of people who are like, hey, come to
Yeah.
Connecticut or whatever it is. So
Oh, good for you.
yeah, if you're interested, hit us up. Our patients really like it, I will say. And our dietitians are amazing. So yes, and they have like, extensive training and all the things. So definitely all you do is go to the website. We have a kind of get started form, fill that out, and then we will verify your insurance benefits for you. And hopefully you will be one of those lucky people who has great coverage, which is most people. So we'll
Yeah.
let you know after we verify what coverage
I
you
used
have.
to take insurance and I used to put that on the client a lot of the time. So this
Oh,
is
really?
for people listening. If you'll do the verifying. I'm really going to recommend people to you
Oh,
because
thank
I'm in New
you.
York. Yeah. And people, I used to take insurance, but I no longer do. So it's really good to know.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. I think
Yeah.
yeah, just try to see people, meet them where they're at, like take it one day at a time, keep it, food positive, as I like
Yeah.
to say. And still we have really great results, I will say, with like A1C and things like that. So definitely check us out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people are really looking for this. So I'm really happy that you're filling the void.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It was really nice to meet you and to speak with you today and have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. That was so fun.